These are trash.
They're hard to latch, even harder to release, and they're wobbly as f***.
But what if I told you I came up with a way to latch and release both wheels in a single motion with 1 foot?
And no, it's not this.
In fact, this setup is so easy you can do it with 1 finger. You interested? Well, stick around because I'm going to show you how easy it is to set this up yourself using common home store hardware. Let's do this thing. Hey everybody, hola amigos, Lee here from Busted Knuckle Woodworks. In a small shop like mine, everything needs to be mobile, including this workbench.
A workbench needs to be able to move when you want it to move and be stable when you don't. And these fit that bill. When you latch them, they lower the wheel, thereby raising the bench about 1/2 inch, enough to roll it where you need to. And when you release them, they raise the wheel, allowing the workbench to rest on the floor.
But these have 2 major problems.
First, they only work on 1 wheel at a time, which makes your workbench super wobbly.
And second, even though these are actually levers, they have very little leverage.
The word lever comes from the French verb lever, which means to raise. The lever is considered one of the so-called simple machines, as first described by Archimedes around the 3rd century BC. It allows you to move a lot of weight with a relatively small amount of effort. In fact, Archimedes wrote, "Give me a place to stand and I shall move the earth," which I guess is what he's doing here. But where is he standing? Is there a huge mountain range out there in space we don't know about? Anyway, for a simple machine, the ratio of the output force to the applied force is called its mechanical advantage, which in the case of a lever, we call leverage. And leverage is determined by the length of the lever, or more precisely, the ratio of the distance from the fulcrum to the application of the input and resistance forces, which is all just a nerdy way of saying these levers are too short. In fact, they're only about 5 inches long. And we're asking quite a lot of a 5-inch lever to lift a heavy workbench. And I don't know what made me think I could improve on this design, but I thought maybe I could come up with something. So I spent a couple of hours building an exact model of the base of this bench, just as a platform to try out some ideas. It's been said that Edison tried 10,000 different ideas to figure out the light bulb. So how many tries will it take me to figure this out? I guess we'll find out. So the point here is to increase the leverage of this system, and for that, we need a longer lever. But just making these existing levers longer makes no sense. You'd be tripping over them every 5 minutes. At least I know I would. So I thought, and I figured, why not turn the levers sideways? So let me show you what I did with this prototype. These are just 2x4s, trimmed down to 1.5x3. They pivot on 1/2-inch bolts, and when you press down on these, they lower the wheels a 1/2 inch, lifting the bench a 1/2 inch off the floor, which lets us roll it around to our heart's content. I'm using 2-inch casters, which can easily clear the bench base as they swivel. These casters have a 125-pound capacity, which adds up to a total of 500 pounds for 4 wheels. That's plenty for a typical workbench. And they do make these with cast iron wheels, which adds even more capacity. But, like most initial attempts, this one had a lot of flaws. The levers are still short, so leverage isn't improved very much. It still only works on 1 wheel at a time, so it doesn't address the wobble issue. And most importantly, I just couldn't think of a clever way to latch and release these by foot. But that's okay. I've still got 9,999 tries to go. I thought the sideways lever approach was still the way to go, but I wanted a design with more leverage that could deploy both casters with 1 foot in a single motion. So this definitely works better. This longer lever gives more mechanical advantage. There's that word again. That just means we're applying less effort over a longer distance. Also, this lowers both wheels at the same time, thereby raising the bench in 1 motion, which is exactly what we want. I really thought this could be the answer. But, as often happens with things like this, I had reached the limits of my knowledge and experience. I still couldn't think of a good way to latch and release this lever by foot. I had reached an impasse, a stopping point. And so I started to think, and think, and think some more. Did you know that Rodin once carved a statue of a guy in this exact same situation? Now, I don't know who this guy was, but I'm pretty sure he was a woodworker. A completely naked woodworker. Wait, that gives me an idea for my next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it. It's gonna be a banger. So now I was 0 for 2 on this thing, but I wasn't ready to throw in the towel just yet. All I needed was a better idea. But the funny thing about ideas is that sometimes the harder you chase them, the faster they run away. So I put this aside for a while in hopes that something would inspire me. And quite often, the place where I find inspiration is at this desk, my FlexiSpot E7 Plus. The E7 Plus can lift 440 pounds and can hold up to 540 pounds, thanks to its 4 3-stage legs, adjustable from 26 inches to 51.5 inches. Super stable, user-friendly controls with 4 programmable preset heights, and a wide choice of sizes, finishes, and materials make the FlexiSpot E7 Plus the very best value in standing desks. Visit flexispot.com and check out all of their standing desks. The E7, the E7 Pro, and the budget-friendly E5. Unlock even more savings by using the exclusive promo code provided below.
Now, where were we? Oh, yeah, inspiration.
The funny thing about inspiration is, sometimes it comes when you least expect it. So here goes attempt number 3. I have 2 levers here, much like our first try, but these are going to be offset, and so they'll swing this way like a gate. I'll mount one lever here on the left. This needs to be mounted so that the caster sits 1/2 inch proud of the bottom of the base. And I'll attach a small piece here as a stop block. And remember, these levers are 1.5 inches thick, so we'll need to offset the fulcrum point on the right side by that amount. And I've attached an 1.5 inch block to mount the right side caster to. Now, the length of the left side lever should be short enough to clear the right side caster block so that it doesn't bind. As for the right side lever, the length isn't as critical, but remember, more length equals more leverage, so I brought it out to about here. I'm going to use 1.5 inch aluminum angle to make a latch. Now, I'm not too sure aluminum would hold up under heavy use, but this is just a prototype, a proof of concept if you will. I'll cut a section out of it, so we end up with this. Then, I'm drilling a 1/4 inch hole right here. Next, I'm using a 1/4 20 threaded insert, a 1 inch 1/4 20 bolt, and a couple of 1/4 inch washers to make a pivot on the top lever. Now, I'm going to form a latch down here. First by drilling a 3/8 inch hole, then adding another 1/4 20 threaded insert here. Then I'll lay out and cut a notch in this. Finally, a 3rd threaded insert to act as an anchor point for a spring, and that should do it. So as you can see, this pretty much operates on the same principle as a fence post latch. As I apply force here, the levers come together, the wheels lower, and the bench rises. Once the bench is fully raised, the latch catches. We can spring the latch by foot, and the whole thing drops back into place. Now, this prototype is just made with construction pine and aluminum, but it still holds up quite a bit of weight. And I can even operate it with one finger. So now comes the true test, the real setup on my real bench. And here we have the final version, made with oak levers. The only differences are that I added 1/2 inch sleeve bearings to these fulcrums for wear resistance. And I made the latch from steel angle instead of aluminum. I've been using these on my bench for several weeks now, and I gotta say, I love this setup. It just makes it so quick and easy to move this bench around. These hold plenty of weight, they're way more efficient than those store-bought retractable casters, and they cost less too. That's a win all the way around in my book. And it didn't even take me 10,000 tries. Now, does that make me smarter than Thomas Edison? I don't know. Probably. I'll let you be the judge. You know, Edison claimed that he hadn't actually failed 10,000 times. He just discovered 10,000 ideas that didn't work. Until finally, one did.
If you have an idea for something that can make your shop or your life better, I sincerely hope this video inspires you to give it a shot. Just remember, whether something takes you 3 tries or 30 or 300, is it really important?
What's truly important is knowing that nothing is a failure as long as you don't quit.